Now, the 5-inch is the 5-inch. That's probably the easiest one to rig. You want to give an example on how to rig the 8-inch?
Yeah.
It's essentially the same principle that he does with the 5-inch. You're just going to have to travel through the bait a little bit longer. So you have to be mindful when you're threading that bait through that you're keeping it dead centered. You're not putting too much pressure on one side or the other. That way, you know, it rigs flush all the way through.
It's going to be more or less the same thing on the 8-inch jig heads. On all the jig heads, the shank of the hook is coming out directly centered on the jig head. So all you have to do is worry about punching that hook centered of the bait. So once again, like you did the same thing we did with the 5-inch, line it up, see where that hook's gonna come out. Keep your finger there. You can do a little mark just to remind yourself.
Yeah, and with the 5-inch, it's a little bit easier to go by eye. But with the 8-inch, I definitely recommend putting the mark on the bait so you know where that hook is supposed to be coming out of.
And just keep it centered. I like to keep all 5 of my fingers on it to just keep the bait straight.
And he's putting even pressure on both sides of the bait. That way the hook doesn't want to travel to one side or the other.
Pop it out, and the same thing. I'll twist towards me, my pointer finger, I'll push down. Keeping that bait away from that barb of the hook.
Yeah, if you look, do one on slow motion almost, you can see the finger is really putting the pressure right underneath, right where the barb would be when he's flicking it over, and he's pushing it down below the barb. That way the bait doesn't get cut up or ruined with it. But you can see it's a nice rig. Now, if you do see it a little bit off, like, you know, the top might be a little bit to one side, the back side might be a little bit to the other. Same way that he talked about, even with the 8-inch bait, which is a harder plastic, you can still adjust it by pushing on what side is bulging, and you could really strain it out to where the bait is, I would say, perfectly flush. So it does make a difference on how you rig it, and then also adjusting it afterwards just to make sure you do get a perfectly straight profile.